There you go. We're live. We're live.
Opportunity Zone, it's live now.
We're live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We've got a great episode. You can tell Chris is nervous right now, can't you guys?
Oh man, shaking in my shoes.
He's nervous because distressed multifamily sales are up 20% year over year.
Yeah, I'm scared.
We're going to talk about that.
Mhm.
It's a little buying opportunity for the savvy investors that are out there. We're going to talk about some of the rent drops as vacancy rates in some cities are picking up.
Could there be a correlation?
Maybe. Or how about the SNAP cuts? Food stamps, classically known as. It's causing a lot of chaos, to say the least. A lot of people are barking about it. And there's going to be a little repercussions for landlords too. Next, South Carolina is hitting the top of a chart that you might not know about. We're going to talk about that. Plus, Fannie Mae revised their forecast for interest rates for the next year. All that and more on today's Opportunity Zone. Chris, you ready to do this thing, man?
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to put up a little map first. I'm going to give a little quick Bible lesson, and then we'll jump into this after Chris gives us a blessing. So you've got a map here. You've got Israel.
Wait a minute. Wait. You
Okay.
didn't preface this the way I told you to preface it.
Preface.
So guys, we hear about this AI and technology and all of this stuff, but the AI, artificial intelligence, that we're talking about today in the news is not the original AI. There is an original AI, and that's what Nate is going to talk to you about.
This is the battle of AI. This is the real AI, okay? Okay, I'm going to geek out for a second.
This is cool.
Check this out. So this map right here, and I'm sorry, it's a little bit fine print, but this little square that you see right here, the Israelites, when they were taking the promised land, they wandered in the desert for 40 some years. They finally get to the promised land. They cross the Jordan River. They easily defeat the city of Jericho. They had a little miracle help them. And then they go over to this region in this box. And this is the city of Ai, right in the middle of it. So if I'm pointing at the screen, you're right about there, okay? Now, when they go there, they send some scouts up to scope it out, and they figure out that there's not that many soldiers up there. So like, you know what, we'll just send 3,000 of our people up. We'll easily wipe this place out. What happens is they get their butt kicked. Literally, the village of Ai, they come out in full force, and they start killing some of the Israelites. They chase them down the hill, and that's it. Game over. And the leader, Joshua, steps up and is like, what do we do wrong? How is this possible? Like, God's on our side. And they figured out that one of the soldiers in the previous battle disobeyed God. He stole treasures from Jericho, and none of them were supposed to take treasures from Jericho. It was a flat out ban on that. And so Joshua had to regroup in order to go back up and face the AI battle. He took 30,000 of his soldiers this time. He had to really think about this. He brought them up at night and snuck them up on the backside, the north side of the hill of Ai. And instead of only sending 3,000 like he did this time, he sent 3,000 to the front gates. He had to be flexible with his plan. The other thing is that he wasn't afraid to commit resources. When I say 30,000, I literally mean he sent 30,000 of his soldiers up there. And I want to quote President Theodore Roosevelt for a minute. What resources am I willing to commit? Theodore Roosevelt always said, nothing worth having has ever come without having something to sacrifice. Theodore Roosevelt. Joshua did the same thing. When he sent up 30,000, what he did is he planted them on the backside, and he sends his 3,000 to the front gates, just like he did last time. Ai comes charging out, ready to like slaughter them. And then as they lure everyone out, the 30,000 that Joshua had planted on the backside came in and ambushed the city because all the soldiers were drawn out of the city at that point. Ai had no defenses left. And that is how the Israelites captured the town of Ai. Fascinating story.
This is a cool story.
All right. So as we jump into this, Chris, I'm going to ask you to give us a blessing, but I want to point out one more thing from Joshua's story, in that, number one, he was willing to put in resources. He wasn't afraid to kind of go all in and really have that. But number two, he had flexibility in his plans. And I know that as we get into this investing topic, a lot of people have to have flexibility. Things have changed a lot this year. And I'm hopeful that we really hit some threads in that today.
Wait a minute, flexibility, but also commitment, right? That story was also about commitment, big time.
100%.
So if you're going to do this, you do this. Like, don't falter. It's so funny. And what you guys don't understand is that Nate and I sometimes prepare for these shows separately. And Nate prepared this biblical lesson and was telling me, and he gets really excited about this kind of stuff. He's a big geek on history and facts and data and all that. And he told me the story that he was going to present today. And I said, "You're not going to believe this." And he said, "What?" I said, "I was going to present some Facebook wisdom today, and I wanted to do that before the blessing." And he was like, "Well, what is it?" And so I'm going to share with you what somebody shared with me through Facebook. We can't ask God to do his will in our own way. His will plus his way plus our obedience equals a life lived with purpose, satisfaction, and fulfillment. See, they didn't obey in Jericho. They stole some stuff they weren't supposed to steal, and then they got their butt handed to them at AI. Remember that. Always obey what God directs you to do. And so if you bear with me a moment as I ask God to introduce himself into this conversation and make himself present with a quick blessing. Heavenly Father, first and foremost, thank you for who you are in my life. Ever since I made the decision that you are everything, my life has just become easier and more manageable. As a result, I've been blessed time and time again with depth and width that I never knew possible. I ask that you bless the people that are here with us today, both virtually and in real life. You bless them with the same things you bless me with. Please bless our conversation today with wisdom and guidance from you, so that everybody hears your truth through our mouths, so that they see that they can be blessed with the things that you've promised and that you've blessed us with. I ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into the news that's driving, at least the headlines that are driving some investment decisions. And the first one, Chris, you're going to love this topic. House Republicans have now joined the other side of the aisle, Democrats, and they're basically saying, hey, some of these HUD cuts, this is mostly Section 8 housing. There's some other subsidy-based things that are wrapped in this. But the Republicans have crossed the aisle now, and they're saying, you know what? We can't go this crazy. We can't cut back on all of these things. So what do you think on this?
What do I think on this? Let me show you guys a little bit something about this list. Where is it now? Anyways, they go down the list of people that they feel need to be continued to be supported. On some of these things, I'm all about it, right? People with mental health issues, people with physical disorders. Yep, all about it. They're talking about people that have drug and alcohol issues. I have a problem with that. I have a real problem with that, because for that, there is a solution. People can change their lives. They should be given a limited time, 60, 90 days, whatever it looks like, post recovery or post, going into a detox rehab and that kind of thing. For them to qualify and to continue to help people financially through this process of them getting sober is actually inhibiting and putting their recovery at risk, because they're basically making it so they don't have a bottom, that they're not suffering enough pain, and they don't have enough loss. Now, there's two sides to that story. You know, if you continue to support them, the thought is that they won't be out committing crimes. But I'm here to tell you, at some point, the support has to end, because you're just enabling. Listen, some of these things. Another thing I'm big for is veterans. Like, there are guys that who've seen active combat who are struggling with PTSD, and it's real and it's debilitating. And I know some of these people because I work with some of these people. They turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol, they turn to all kinds of things to deal with what's going on in the head. Those kinds of situations are different. I'm talking about just the run-of-the-mill drug addict that just needs to make a change in their life. And if we stop them from feeling the pain of their bottom, then they're never going to do anything different. That's my 2 cents. Sorry.
The reason we're bringing this up is because this administration, they're basically saying, hey, we got to cut back. We got to get the budget under control. And one of the spots they're cutting back is in Section 8 vouchers. We firmly believe, and that's why we're not buying any Section 8 properties. I know a lot of people, they advertise become a Section 8 millionaire.
Yep.
That's not us. Like, we're sounding the alarm, go the opposite direction. This administration has committed that they're going to scale those programs back. They're going to return them to their intended roots. Intended roots describes what you were
Short
saying.
term.
Yeah, short term. I remember even as a kid,
Yeah.
I had an uncle that took out Section 8 voucher. I think he had like 2 or 3 years, and then he had to be off. He was booted from it. And that's the way that it was supposed to be, and it's the way it should be, really.
People
most
need a
cases.
hand up, not a handout. Yeah, for sure. It's got to go back to that.
Okay, I want to bring up the homeless population per 1,000 residents. So this is adjusted per state
100,000.
per 100,000. Thank you. And I want to just kind of point out and draw some parallels to the markets with the most homeless population per 100,000 residents. We've got Hawaii and DC and New York at the top of the list. These also happen to be super expensive housing markets.
The top 3 markets to live in, like they're the most costly markets. Hawaii is number 1, DC is number 2, and New York is number 3. There's a direct correlation there. It makes sense, right?
And then down at the bottom end, opposite end of the spectrum, you've got Mississippi, Louisiana, Virginia, Iowa, South Carolina,
I
Wisconsin.
was a little shocked by some of those, because Mississippi's not the cheapest place in the world to live, right? And I thought, and please, I don't mean anything by this, and the education scores in Mississippi are really low. Like the schools are not great and all of that kind of stuff. And please, I don't mean to, I'm not trying to offend anybody personally. I'm talking about the statistical scores based on testing. Mississippi is really low. So I expected homeless to be a little bit higher because of lack of education in that society. And I'm thinking, man, it's cheap to live in Mississippi. Maybe I'd want to move to Mississippi. Except they get those things called hurricanes that wipe the thing out every now and then. Maybe not. I don't know.
I won't go political on this graph too much, but I did find the correlation that most of the states in the lower end of the spectrum were Republican leaning, red states. And then most of the states in the higher end, it's not 100%, but the majority were more of left leaning states.
Yeah. But you know what? So one of the things that I have found, whether they choose to tell you this or believe it or not, that if you have more social programs, i.e. democratic points of view, socialistic points of view, you have to pay for those. So in order to pay for those, you have to raise taxes. When you raise taxes, cost of living goes up. So I think that's where the correlation goes between blue states and red states. And again, not trying to beat anybody up. I'm just trying to state facts as I perceive them, and I may be biased. But I'm always right, though.
Chris, where are you buying properties? I think
Where am I
that'd be
buying
helpful.
property? Red states, man.
And why?
Why? Because the number one thing that stops me from buying properties is rent control, right? You get into a state where today, if it's a blue state, it might be friendly, but look at, stories you tell about Minneapolis and all these other places where they were, and then rent control comes in and craziness comes in, and then these socialistic points of view come in, and then us as landlord make it impossible to operate. People don't understand sometimes the cost that involved or associated with operating, like say a building that's 15, 20 years old as stuff starts to end its life cycle, and you've got to reinvest, and that's all going to be paid for. And if you've got rent control on me and inflation is 7% and you've got me capped at 3%, how does that work? Like, it just doesn't. The economics don't work. So I primarily invest in red states, red, they're pro landlord, and tipping the odds in my favor that's going to stay that way.
You got a big election today up in New York.
Yeah, I've been meaning to check what's going on. I keep forgetting to. That scares the bejeebus out of me, man.
Don't worry, with elections these days, you check at about 4 a.m. That's, after they get done with all the...
Dude, are they really going to elect a socialist?
Well, President Trump sent out a message late last night.
And if
saying
they
that,
elect a socialist, forget about federal funding?
Yeah, he's going to cut off federal funding.
Yeah, but you know what? People do it just out of spite.
Let's see where that goes.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up one of Mr. Turner's, Scott
Oh,
Turner.
good Lord. You want to talk about a politician?
So recently, Scott Turner's guy, this is a gentleman that works for him, he had to go testify. This is Frank Cassidy, on what they're going to do to basically help make houses more affordable. And he's getting grilled, and here's his answer.
Hang on a second. I am a huge Turner fan. This is a disgrace.
Scott, thank you very much for that question. As you mentioned, I personally benefited from the FHA, was fortunate enough to enter homeownership at a relatively young age. But for many Americans, that is out of reach.
Yes.
Housing is too expensive. And I am focused at HUD's Office of Housing and the FHA, working with our partners, lenders, homeowners to streamline these programs, to make them more efficient, to make them less costly. Since I've started in April under the leadership of Secretary Turner, we've been taking inventory, not just of HUD's programs, but FHA's programs, to figure out how we can get more Americans into homes. Since President Trump took office, a record 800,000 FHA borrowers became homeowners, many first-time homeowners. FHA serves a $1.5 trillion single-family portfolio, and it's really taking inventory of each FHA program, working with lenders, working with partners, working with the boots on the ground to make these programs more efficient. And I look forward, Senator, to working with you and your staff and the rest of this committee on these initiatives.
Is anybody familiar with the term brown nose? Because that's what was going on here, right? So the guy was asked a very specific question, and the chairman basically says, 30 to 45 seconds, tell me what you're going to do to make it affordable housing more affordable, or make more affordable housing available. And that was his response. You want to talk about political doublespeak? The guy he talked for a minute and a half and didn't address any of the issues. Oh, we're going to work to make it more affordable. Okay, how? What are you going to do? What's the plan? What are you going to do? You're going to collect your paycheck and really not do anything like every other politician before you? I don't know. I'm frustrated.
If you would have just come out and said, this is what we're doing, it would have changed everything in your perspective. Because I do believe that Scott Turner is doing things. I really do.
Listen, I'm a Scott Turner fan. He is doing, and the thing that difference with Turner is Turner comes out and says this, and this. This guy, bad.
On to other news. Okay, Fannie Mae has just revised. Remember Fannie Mae, we covered on the show about 3 weeks ago. Fannie Mae came out with this forecast for 2026 saying that rates were coming down. They revised it and published again this week. They're saying that rates are going to be down even more for 2026. They could end at somewhere around 5.9%. Remember, this is not the same as the Fed rate that you hear about in the news. The Fed rate, what you hear in the news, is the Federal Reserve. Yes, it can influence the mortgage rate, but it's very different than the mortgage rate. Chris, your thoughts on 5.9% as a mortgage rate by the end of next year?
So let me expand on what you were just trying to educate. So just really quickly, the way that banks make money is they borrow at one rate, they lend it at a different, right? So the Fed rate is what you're hearing about and all the news is all about with Paul and Trump and all that nightmare, right? So that's the Fed rate. That's what they get their money at. And I think it's at 4.3 something right now. And so now they're lending money at 6.3. So they're making 2% on these loans, and they're not doing anything for it. Literally. They're getting the money from the Federal Reserve, giving it to you, making 2%. Do that times $1 billion, and you end up with a few dollars in there. So here's the big deception that's going on. Banks are continuing to be ultra profitable when the Fed rate went up. Because what it did, it allowed them to mask the fact that they were charging a 2.5, 3-point spread on these loans. So they're predicting that it's going to come down from 6.3 to 5.9. That's 0.4 points. Well, for those of you paying attention, the Fed has dropped a 0.5 point or 0.5 points. So that means that the banks are going to make another point in profit, or 0.0, or 10 bips as we call it. Isn't that insane? Let's get the truth out here. Banks are making money. They're killing it. But it comes down 0.5 point. They drop 0.4. They're heroes. Everybody's happy. But they're still making more money. And here's the truth. That 0.4% is it's fodder for news outlets right now, because the reality is it has insignificant effect on the cost of homes.
Yeah, it's one of the smaller triggers. The price to get into home ownership, it's based on monthly. What can someone afford per month? And usually it's 1/3 of their income can go towards where they live. And right now the reality is that it's cheaper to rent than buy. If you follow this orange line right here, this is the rental amount. So this is what people are paying to get into a rental right now. Someone can come and rent drastically lower than someone can come in to buy. The blue line is the buy. Notice over time, this is a graph since the 70s, we've had disparagements. Like sometimes it's more expensive to buy, sometimes it's more expensive to rent. Rent pretty much it hovers this point right here, about 1/3 of your income, but the buying has gone up and down. Right now we are in an extreme up period and it's trending down right here. So the big question that we have to answer is, when will it be affordable for people to jump back into single family houses? When is the right time for someone to jump in and buy? And it's not as simple as just lowering the rate, as Chris said. This little tiny bits, a quarter point here and there. What has to happen for people to jump in masses is for this line, the blue line, cost of home ownership, to return closer to the cost of renting. Once we're here, you'll see a whole bunch of people jumping in, buying again.
So hopefully this brings us to our next slide, which is.
It does. Rent right now is on the decline.
So wait a minute, Nate. Nate, explain this to me. If it costs too much to buy a house and rents are declining, how is that possible? Where are all the renters going?
I have my theory.
So
Okay.
spit it out, my young friend.
And the mainstream doesn't want to talk about this, at least on data like this, and I'm kind of a data geek. But right now, like, we just got done analyzing a property in San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio happens to be a border town.
Border town? Why is that significant, Nate?
Well, there's a lot of deportations happening, and I think in border towns, I'm not on the ground, so I can't comment directly, but I have a theory that we're seeing some people they're migrating on their own. They're saying, I'm not going to sit around and wait for someone to come and force me to leave. So in a border town like San Antonio, you're seeing a lot of vacancies on apartment buildings, and we're seeing it in other areas of the country as well.
We actually experienced this ourselves. There was ICE had made Lexington, Kentucky a hot spot for a minute, and we had a whole bunch of skips. There are certain rules and things that we need to do to verify the identification of people leasing. Everybody that we had leased to, they checked the boxes, passed background checks, the whole 9 yards. But we got a whole bunch of skips in the middle of the night as that was going on. But here's the other problem that is involved with this, and this may sound contradictory to some of the other things I believe, but I'm going to say it just the same. A lot of the menial tasks or even skilled workers that not only live in these apartments, they repair and turn the apartments, right? So they're leaving and they're not coming to work, and it's making it more and more difficult, more and more expensive to pay for what we call turns. That's when one tenant leaves and another tenant comes in. So it's driving the cost of ownership up on these things, which takes us to our next slide.
Now you got a huge jump in apartment transactions. So Q3 numbers just got reported. We have a 13% increase. 13%. This is double digits. This is massive. And on top of that, a 20% year-over-year increase in distressed multifamily sales. Chris, what does this mean for an 11-year-old?
What does it mean for an 11-year-old? All right, so I think I basically just explained to you what's going on with and why we ended up with distressed assets, right? Because we have vacancies up or occupancy down, right? So for some reason, occupancy is falling. We're hinting towards that it might have something to do with immigration policies and people being deported. We don't know that for sure. It's definitely not because people can now afford more house, because we saw that that's not the case. So we're really literally trying to find out what's going on. Are there more homeless? I think there are more homeless people, but I don't think it's that significant. So what's going on is people are not able to operate. So we've gone through the cycle of variable rate loans. People had the teaser loans, and then they paying 2%, and then they variabled up to 11. Realized that they couldn't operate the property, and they've had to walk away. They have these factors now where it's becoming more and more difficult to operate a multifamily because the cost is going up. But I'm here to tell you, I don't want to say it doesn't affect us, but it has a less significant impact on us because we've been through storms before. We know how to operate these properties. And while all of this sounds like doom and gloom to you people, to me, it's music to my ears. You know why? Because the more deals that are out there to buy, the less competition there is, the lower the price, the better the opportunity. And if you look at any statistic model or graph about the value of multifamily real estate, it does this. If you're smart, you buy what is here and you sell what is here, because you know it's going to do this life cycle. We've had a couple of major bumps, or dips rather, in that curve or in that graph over the past 25 years. But I'm telling you what, there's opportunities out there to buy right now. But listen to me clearly. Do not get involved in a situation if you don't have the proper guide or Sherpa or mentor or whatever you want to call it to guide you through these times. Do not do it alone if you're new to real estate. Do not do it alone because you will get hurt, right? You've got to know what's going on. You've got to analyze these deals correctly, and you've got to be unemotional with the facts about what's going on with these deals. I'm sorry, I answered too long.
To sum it up, what Chris just said is why we're seeing savvy investors make a move.
Yeah, now.
Double-digit increase. This is massive. The savvy investors are grabbing as much multifamily as they possibly can because we're in this dip. We just don't know how long we're going to be in the dip. So
What is it, Jim? What is it Buffy says all the time?
Well, he says
When other people are afraid.
Yeah, be greedy when other people are fearful, and be fearful when other people are greedy. He also says you can only see who's swimming naked when the tide goes out.
Yep. And the tide's out. And we got business on.
It's funny. We have a verbal deal. I don't know if this will go through or not. Okay, but we literally put in an offer like 3 or 4 months ago on this deal.
Yeah.
And they told us no. They went with somebody else. That somebody else canceled on them at the 11th hour. They called us back. We put in 11. Their ask was 16. And they paid 16 for it a couple years ago. And they came back to us and said, can you close by the end of the year? Well, if we take your offer, can you close by the end of the year? And that's just like case in point right there. Like,
yeah, but listen, let me vocalize that again. Are you guys hearing this? They were asking 16 million. We offered 11 because we evaluated the building and knew based on current markets that that's what that building was worth. They went off and did their dream, right, with somebody who was going to pay them everything they wanted, and the deal fell apart because that property can't operate at 16 million. No matter how much the seller wants it to operate at 16 million, it just can't work. So now they came back to us because we can execute and close by the end of the year at 11 million. That's a $5 million discount on that property that they bought for 16 million 5 years ago.
Chris, I got one more thing for you to hit,
Yes.
and this is important because this is happening for landlords especially.
But this scares me because this is real. This person is being honest.
Yeah.
This person is being honest.
Let's let everybody see.
Okay, y'all are highly mistaken to sit there and criticize someone for getting the help that they need for their family. And y'all keep coming for me because I've been on food stamps for the past 15 years. You do realize that I qualified for food stamps because of my income, right? Because I don't have any income. I haven't had income in the past 15 years, and I have been able to have my bills paid, my food paid for, and I'm in Section 8 housing, okay? These are all programs that I'm entitled to because I do not make enough, okay? So before you go and pass judgment on someone, realize that everyone's life situation is not going to be the same as yours. Okay, you might work 40, 50 hours a week and you might have income coming in, but there's people like me out here who don't have anything to their name that have to rely on these programs because they don't have jobs. What do you expect us to do?
Can anybody say get a job? Can anybody say? So listen, this is one of the things that I have with one of the problems I have with these programs. Listen, if you're on this program, I get it. You're in a bad situation. Life happens. Divorces, bad stuff, right? You get out of abusive house, whatever. You're in a bad situation. I think that there should be requirements that you have a certain number of job applications perhaps you have to put in a week, that you pass drug tests, that you're not doing any illegal drug tests. And if that's unreasonable, and by the way, I think you should be an American citizen. I think you should be in this country legally and not a criminal in order for you to get any of these benefits. And I'm not going to say anything.
Well, Secretary Brooke Rollins agrees with you too. She said that they were going through the roles of people on the SNAP benefit food stamps, and this is what she said.
Zero. We asked every state for the first time in history, and this was in February, to send us their data and let us, with Doge and a war room, actually start going through this data to better understand how this explosion of SNAP benefits happened under Joe Biden. We increased almost 40% on this program in just a couple of years under the Biden administration. Of course, we know they were trying to buy the election, but that's a conversation for another time. And since we have asked for that data, 29 states have complied. complied. Of course, almost all the red states, a couple of the, couple blue states too. But in that data, and I haven't talked about this yet publicly, in that data we've studied about $100 billion in spend. We have found thousands and thousands of illegal use of the EBT card. We have been moving people off of SNAP. We've got almost 700,000 people, I think, we've moved off just since the president.
700,000 people have now been taken off the rolls.
Can I be honest? So listen, I'm gonna blame a lot of the explosion, the 40% explosion on SNAP and other programs on this. Some of it lays at Trump's feet. Listen to me, hear me out for a second. And I may be completely wrong. I have an ex-wife that tells me I'm wrong all the time. But what happened was during COVID, people were paid to stay home. And when COVID lifted and the benefits stopped, they decided they didn't want to work, but they liked being at home and they liked getting paid for it. So I think a lot of people, and I suffered this amount of the business, like we had to lay off half of our staff during COVID because of the industry that I serve. And as a result, when we went to go hire people back, there was nobody like to hire back. Like the employees, nobody wanted to come back to work. It's because they were getting money to stay home. They got used to that. And then they went to these other social programs, Section 8 housing, SNAP, all these other things to have income to sit at home and play video games. And it's really quite disturbing. I can't imagine living my life that way. But there are some people who are satisfied with that. And Trump started a lot of that, thinking he was doing the right thing by supplementing unemployment and all that stuff and providing federal aid. And I think the country needed it. But I think that there were abusers to any policy. It was meant to be temporary. It was temporary. He stopped it, but then people found other alternatives. And I think it's really disgusting. Back to the mentality, the entitled mentality of that young woman that was expressing she hadn't had a job 15 years. Don't you understand? Well, when was the last time she was looking for a job? I got a problem with all this.
Back to work requirements, my friend.
Amen.
Hey,
Amen.
Chris, we got to wrap today, but there's been
We
a
got
lot.
so much more to talk about, though.
I know, but there's one thing. Wait list for new opportunity. Like people are looking for end of year deals, tax savings, cash flows, placements. We have something, we can't take it public. It's got to go under NDA.
Right.
But maybe you could.
So listen, we have a private wait list, and can you guys drop the link in Zoom? If you're not in Zoom, if you're on one of the other social media platforms, please, in the chat, in the engagement, whatever it is, comments down below, put link. And we will send you a link, and it's a private invite for you to come and jump on our wait list. What does that do? If you jump on our wait list, you then have a relationship with us. And we've got a deal right now that is absolutely phenomenal. It's absolutely mind-blowing cash flow. But you do, as Nate was saying, have to sign an NDA because we can't go public with the details of this deal as of yet. So get on our wait list. It then helps us with a previous relationship and the SEC rules around fundraising and that type of thing. Get on the wait list, get to know us so that you can become part of our inner circle, because this deal funded $14 million in 14 days. In other words, in 14 days, we had $14 million worth of commitments on this deal. 14 days, $14 million. That's how insane this deal is in commitments. And only through a private network or our inner circle of people. And 90% of those people are on our wait list. So please, 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 if you're looking for opportunities to grow your wealth and to multiply the talents that God has blessed you with, please get on our wait list, get to know us. We invest with the values and the morals based on biblical standards. And that's just the way that we exist in our lives today. We want you to be part of that. We want you to benefit. We want you to be blessed by God like we are.
That's for accredited investors.
Accredited investors only. Yes, people.
If you don't know that title, it simply means that you have a net worth or an income requirement that SEC says thumbs up on, which is $300K as a household, like married couple, $200K as an individual, or you've got a net worth of $1 million or more outside of your personal house. So pretty simple requirements. Again, just put the word link in the comment section and our team will get you information on getting onto our wait list. Beautiful show, man. Thank you guys for attending today. We'll be back again next week with more. If you guys want to get inside of this guy's brain, the man that literally has had multiple big exits on companies, very, very large exits too. If you want to get inside of his head, join his Mindset Monday talk. Just put mindset in the comment section. Our team will get you a link for that as well.